Grizzly Gaz's Midnight Visitor. Grizzly Gaz was no stranger to solitude. His YouTube channel, Grizzly Gaz Camping, was filled with his outdoor adventures, camping in remote areas across the UK, braving extreme conditions with nothing but his gear and his loyal French bulldog, Fendi. He thrived in the isolation of the wilderness, where the only sounds were the crackling of his campfire and the whispering wind through the trees. But in April 2023, one of his solo camping trips took a turn he never could have expected. A quiet night in the woods became an unsettling brush with something or someone that left him questioning whether he had ever truly been alone in the wild. A stranger in the dark. The evening had started just like any other. Gaz had picked a secluded spot deep in the forest, away from any trails or roads. He set up his camp, securing his tent and arranging his firewood, while Fendi sniffed around, keeping watch as usual. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, Gaz had settled into his routine. A fire flickered warmly in front of him as he prepared a thick ribeye steak over the flames, the scent of sizzling meat filling the crisp night air. Everything was perfect. Then a voice cut through the stillness. "Got a light, mate?" Gaz's entire body tensed. He hadn't heard footsteps. No breaking twigs, no approach. 1 second, he had been alone, and the next, someone was right behind him. He turned sharply, his heart hammering in his chest. Standing at the edge of the firelight was a man. He was dressed in jeans and a coat, his posture relaxed, but something about his presence sent off alarm bells in Gaz's head. The man's eyes darted toward the steak, then back to Gaz. "You got any beer? Any food?" The man asked casually, as if they were old friends. Gaz didn't answer immediately. His instincts screamed at him to be cautious. He sized the man up quickly, thin, disheveled, unshaven. He reeked of the woods, as though he had been living out there for days, maybe longer. For a brief moment, Gaz considered telling him to move along. But then, something in the man's expression gave him pause. He didn't look dangerous, just lost. Against his better judgment, Gaz nodded and offered him some food. "Yeah, all right. What's your name?" "Martin," the man mumbled, shuffling closer to the fire. An uneasy meal. As they ate, Martin spoke in broken, scattered sentences. He told Gaz bits and pieces of his story, how he had lost everything, how he had been wandering for what felt like forever. His voice was low and tired, the words slurring together as if his mind was drifting somewhere far away. Gaz kept a careful eye on him. Something was off. Martin's thoughts seemed disjointed, his words looping back onto themselves. One moment, he was talking about the places he had been, and the next, he was muttering cryptic things about them, watching him, about people in the trees. Fendi, usually friendly to strangers, stayed glued to Gaz's side, his ears perked, body tense. The dog barely took his eyes off Martin the entire time. Then something strange happened. Gaz turned away for just a second, to grab another log for the fire. When he turned back, Martin was gone. The spot where he had been sitting was empty. No footsteps, no sound of movement. Just gone. Gaz's blood ran cold. He stood up, scanning the trees, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Martin?" "Nothing," he called out again, but the only answer was the distant rustling of branches in the wind. It didn't make sense. The forest was thick, the ground covered in dry leaves and twigs. If Martin had walked away, Gaz would have heard it. But there was nothing. No sound. No sign of him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The missing camera. A deep unease settled over Gaz. His gut told him something wasn't right. He had met plenty of people while camping. Some lost, some looking for shelter. But none had disappeared like this. And the way Fendi was acting? That wasn't normal. Gaz wasn't about to stick around to find out if Martin, or whatever else was lurking in the woods, would return. He packed up most of his valuables, keeping his essentials close. Before leaving the site, he set up a hidden trail camera on a nearby tree, pointing toward the campsite. If Martin came back, he'd catch it on film. The next morning, when Gaz returned to check the footage, his stomach dropped. The camera was gone. Not knocked over, not damaged, completely missing. He searched the area, but there was no sign of it. Whoever, or whatever, had taken it hadn't just stolen it. They had known it was there. A shiver ran through him. He had only told one person about the camera, Martin. Gaz never camped in that area again. To this day, he doesn't know what happened that night. Whether Martin had truly been just a lost man, or if there was something far more sinister at play. But one thing is certain. Someone had been watching him, and they had made sure he wouldn't see what they did after he left. Bears and gorillas, the children who vanished into the mountains. A perfect picnic turns into a nightmare. It was supposed to be a relaxing day. On June 7th, 1951, two families from Santa Fe, New Mexico decided to have a picnic at the Santa Fe Ski Basin, a popular spot for families and hikers during the warm summer months. They picked a quiet clearing at the base of the mountain, spread out their blankets, unpacked their lunches, and let the kids play near the edge of the forest. The children, Larry, 7, Janet, 5, and Stephen, 3, faced each other, giggling just a few feet from the tree line. The parents, distracted by setting up their meal, occasionally glanced up, making sure they weren't straying too far. Then, in a matter of minutes, they were gone. The vanishing one moment, the kids were there. The next, the clearing was empty. When the parents looked up from their food, they expected to see their children still playing by the trees. But there was no sign of them. At first, they assumed the kids had wandered a little too far into the trees. They stood up, called their names, expecting them to come running back. No response. Panic set in. The parents searched frantically, their voices echoing through the trees. They ran deeper into the forest, yelling, their hands trembling. Nothing. A terrifying thought crept in. Had someone taken them? One of the parents sprinted to the ski lodge where a single staff member was stationed and called the police. By the time authorities arrived, the children had been missing for hours. The desperate search, the sun began to set, but the search continued. Police set up massive spotlights, illuminating the thick trees, hoping the kids would see the lights and run toward them. Hundreds of searchers fanned out into the forest, calling their names, combing through the mountains. But as the hours passed, a grim realization set in. The children were nowhere to be found. Had they been kidnapped? Something happened to them? How could 3 young kids simply vanish without a sound? By the next afternoon, things looked hopeless. Then, against all odds, they found them. But where they were found only made things stranger. Miles away, hiding in a log. A searcher, far beyond the primary search area, nearly 4 miles away, deep into the mountainous terrain, noticed something strange. A tiny face peeking from behind a fallen log. The man froze. And then, suddenly, all 3 children appeared. Huddled inside the hollowed-out tree, their faces pale, their eyes wide with terror. How had they gotten here? They were miles away from where they had vanished, thousands of feet higher in elevation. A brutal climb for even an experienced hiker, let alone a 3-year-old. And yet, here they were. What really happened? The children's terrifying story. After they were rushed back to safety, a doctor checked them. They were slightly dehydrated, but otherwise unharmed. Then came the question everyone wanted answered. What happened? How'd you get all the way up there? Larry. Then a shaken voice told the story no one was prepared for. Something had chased them. According to Larry, the children had been playing in the trees when they suddenly appeared from the forest. It didn't hesitate. It charged toward them. Terrified, they ran. Deeper and deeper into the trees, climbing the mountain in a blind panic. The beast right behind them. They ran for miles. Eventually, they found a hollow log and crawled inside. But it wasn't just the bear. Larry's voice shook as he said, "There was a gorilla too." The room went silent. A gorilla? The searchers looked at each other, confused, uneasy. Larry insisted. There had been something else with the bear. Something big. Something walking on 2 legs, watching them, hunting them. And the 2 creatures had worked together. They were looking for us, Larry whispered. And for the next 2 days, the children stayed hidden, terrified, listening to something moving outside the log, waiting for them to come out. The impossible journey. The searchers and parents struggled to understand. The Santa Fe ski basin is rugged, steep, and treacherous. Even adult hikers struggle to climb it. Yet 3 small children, including a 3-year-old, had somehow managed to run nearly 4 miles up the mountain in a matter of hours, without stopping, without resting, without collapsing. And what were they running from? Yes, there had been bear sightings in the area, but bears don't chase prey for miles. And a gorilla? There are no gorillas in New Mexico. So what did they see? A mystery that will never be solved. In the end, no explanation was ever given. The children were safe, and that was all that mattered to the authorities. The police closed the case, calling it a simple case of children getting lost. But for those who knew the area, the story didn't add up. How did they run so far? Why didn't the bear catch them? What was the gorilla they saw? And most disturbing of all, who or what was really out there? The children never changed their story. They were chased by something, and it had almost caught them. Some mysteries stay buried in the woods. The Santa Fe ski basin remains a beautiful place. Hikers still visit. Families still have picnics there. But ask around and you might hear whispers. Strange things happen in those woods. And sometimes when the sun goes down and the forest goes quiet, something starts watching, waiting. And if you listen closely enough, you might just hear something moving in the trees.